Let's go to the Deputy Assistant to the President of the United States, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, good friend of the Breitbart site. Good morning, Dr. G. How are you?
Good morning, Alex.
So let's start with the hot news from last night that will no doubt be preoccupying the establishment press all day, which is General Flynn's recused himself from, General Flynn has offered to testify in order to get immunity, and he'll be testifying about the Russian situation, the mostly fake news, but trying to sort out exactly the specific connections between Trump and Russia, which have been very limited, no hard pieces of evidence so far. And it appears it's because of Flynn may have had connections to the Turkish government, which seems to be somewhat unrelated, Dr. G. What is the White House's reaction to this story, and how do you anticipate they'll handle it?
Well, I'm not going to comment specifically on General Flynn. I think we have to step back and look at the broader stories to do with the intelligence community, to do with the leaks, and just focus on one specific aspect. There's a intentional misdirection occurring and an attempt always to focus on process and not on the actual substance. As you yourself pointed out, there is literally nothing that connects the administration or the campaign to Russia in any peculiar or underhand fashion. And then we have, on the contrary, the series of leaks to the press of national security relevant classified information, which for some reason doesn't seem to cause any kind of consternation in the mainstream media. But when Nunes and others try to actually get to the crux of what is actually happening in terms of political exploitation of intelligence, those issues suddenly create a maelstrom of procedural problems for the media. So as my good friend Chris Plant says, if the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all.
Yeah, and let's talk about the Nunes story, which is also another one. He's the latest to be attacked with some sort of a political witch hunt. It's Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, yourself. I mean, we know the deal. Anyone who's effective is eventually going to get tarred and feathered by the establishment and the Democratic left. What is the truth about Devin Nunes right now?
Well, what is the truth? He's a patriot. As far as I'm concerned, this is a man who took some very specific actions because he wanted to take a stand for the truth. This word that keeps being used again and again and again, collusion. Collusion in what? Collusion to expose the truth. That's a good thing. So I think we have to commend anybody who, in their official capacity, finds out something that is very disturbing to them and to the security of the nation, of the republic, of its national security jewels, if you will, and takes actions to protect them, and also takes action to shed light on those who would pervert the intelligence community for their own parochial or political ends. So this is a man who we should thank, in my opinion.
Let's get to some of the headlines today in the national security front, and in particular, stories about Rex Tillerson, who is in the news. He's been traveling around the world. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is this sensational claim that the Washington Post made. Check this out, Dr. G. I'm reading verbatim. Many career diplomats say they still have not met him, and some have been instructed not to speak to him directly or even make eye contact. What are they talking about?
Fake news. That's what they're talking about. The secretary has been doing sterling work at the meetings of principals and other similar gatherings. He has been working like an incredibly effective CEO, which is what he was, and he is driven to represent the nation as our highest-ranking diplomat. So. It's like the stories that have been broiling now for months and months and months. It's the generation of those who either inside the machine or outside the machine do not wish to recognize what happened on November the 8th and think that they have some special right not only to generate false news, but to somehow question the legitimacy of a duly elected administration. It's just absurdity, Alex.
Yeah, one of the things that it appears in this article that's literally titled Secretary of State Rex Tillerson spends his first weeks isolated from an anxious bureaucracy. It just really does seem like a media grousing about lack of access, which is something they still can't wrap their minds around, why this president would not want to have his administration completely open to the press, who has one interest on the planet, and that is to destroy him. So anyway, that's just my little commentary on that, Dr. G. Let's talk about Syria. There seems to be a departure in our national security and foreign policy. This is also a story about the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, has said that now the future of Turkey and whether or not Assad will be deposed, that's up to the Syrian people at this point. This seems like a big departure from our policy of removing Assad, which was clearly didn't happen, but that seemed to be the direction of our policy. Now it is not.
Look, the Obama administration, this was one of our biggest problems. So, with everything else leading from behind and ISIS, the JV team, there was literally an article of faith that Assad must go. Remember, the Obama White House said, whatever else happens, this man must be removed from office. Well, that's all well and good, but we're talking about an individual who has and continues to enjoy the support of not only Iran, but Russia and also China to a certain degree. And that is something you simply can't just sweep under the carpet. You have to deal with it. Remember, it's not just politics that is the art of the possible. It is strategy that is the art of the possible. And you have to deal with the world as it is, not as you would wish it to be. The last 8 years, it was dealt with in the way the Obama administration would like it to be. We, as having a commander-in-chief who is the ultimate pragmatist, we look at the world as it is, not as we would like it to be.
Okay, so the leaders of Egypt, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority are going to meet with President Trump in April. What can you do to preview what's going to be on the agenda?
It's going to be very much a continuation of what we've been talking about since the beginning of the administration, that this isn't a Bush administration. It's very different from the last 16 years, and not just differentiated from the Obama administration. We will lead from the front. MAGA really means America first. And as such, we are not going to invade other people's countries to occupy them and try and turn them into gutters of ourselves. We are going to help those nations fight their own wars for themselves. And that's why we are doing right now, with the visit of President Sisi occurring imminently, with the various events that are going to happen in the next few weeks and months, we are rebuilding our relationships with the Sunni nations of the region, who really were left in the wilderness by the Obama White House, because they have to be the key element to any solution in the region. They have to, with our support, they have to take the fight to ISIS, and we have to rebuild those relationships first before they can do that.
That's Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Deputy Assistant to the President. Let's turn from the Middle East to the Far East. Kim Jong-un in North Korea, more saber-rattling going on. It seems like there's potential conflict within the region, perhaps with the Philippines. Who knows? What is the administration's plan in the short term to deal with this continued saber-rattling?
That's one where we're literally, we're going to stick to our plan and our principles. We are not going to give the playbook away. So it is of great concern what North Korea is doing, especially with regards to its recent testing, its weapons testing. It's a very different nation from all the other nations of the world. It will be treated in that special sui generis way. But if you allow us to just play our cards close to our chest, Alex, because That's how strategy should be done in these instances.
Okay, fine. So Ambassador Bolton suggested earlier this week on his weekly visit to the show that he was expecting a little more muscularity from the Trump administration with regards to the South China Sea. We have a crazy story from Frances Martel this morning that she says that China's actually said there's now no such thing as man-made islands in the South China Sea. Now they're just flat out lying about man-made islands you can literally see and touch. What's cooking here, Dr. G?
Well, what's cooking is the smoke screen, I think, is slowly dissipating. Originally, China said that it was going to build these artificial atolls for search and rescue purposes, a very, very anodyne, very charitable concept that, they're very dangerous shipping lanes, and we need to be able to assist anybody who gets into trouble. But that's fallen by the wayside, and we know that these are not there for some kind of multilateral charitable purpose. They're there as military installations. And as you said, you can go to Google Earth and check out those runways and check out those installations. That is a territorial expansion. That is something that really cannot be allowed to stand. And as such, we're going to work with our partners and with the various individuals who are interested in seeing freedom of movement in the area. And China will have to act in ways that comport with freedom of movement on the international waterways. That's
Dr. G, we got to take a break. You got to forgive me, sir. Thank you so much. Great to talk to you, my friend. As always, talk to you soon.